Good morning, wrestling fans. Welcome to PWR Today for Tuesday morning, January 12th, 2021. I'm the man they call Meathead, and joining me every Tuesday morning is the lovely Matthew Thomas? No, can't be lovely Matthew Thomas. Matthew, is that you?
The magnificent Matthew Thomas.
Magnificent. Gotcha.
The meandering Matthew Thomas.
The maleficent?
Yes, the maleficent
the malnourished?
Matthew Thomas. The malnourished Matthew Thomas. All of the above.
As long as you're not the man they call Meathead.
That I'm not.
Welcome. It's Tuesday morning. We're going to talk a little Raw from last night. Let's talk a little bit of sponsors. You know, if you get Manscaped and you're a little bit raw, you can always cover yourself with Collar Noble brand. First, our friends at manscaped.com are giving you 20% off with the promo code PWR. Get yourself silky smooth. Make sure that the lady in your life loves you. Manscaped and silky smooth with manscaped.com and collarnoblebrand.com. PWR 360 will get you 10% off. I am loving, I said this to Linda yesterday morning, Bueno Hermanos t-shirt. I think that's my next Collar Noble brand t-shirt that I got to get. The Bueno Hermanos, Spanish for good brothers. Yes, I love the shirt. collarnoblebrand.com, 10% off, PWR 360. So Matthew, what are you doing here? Well, it's Tuesday morning. What are you doing on the show?
Well, you know, I'm treating the fans to what is going to be 3 consecutive mornings waking up with Matthew Thomas in your ear.
Wow. 3 consecutive mornings. So not just the Tuesday, or excuse me, not just the Wednesday and Thursday, and normally, you know, the Friday, but now you're giving it to us Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
Consecutive days, yes. I don't know that this has ever been done in the history of PWR Daily. I mean, this is the Matthew Thomas hat trick.
Today, PWR Today. I don't know where you're doing PWR Daily from.
Oh yeah, that was the thing after Buckle Banner. That was
brief, Buckle Banter. Yes, where we
the
talk about what kind of belt
I'm
wearing.
Exactly. That was a cult classic.
No, we're doing a little switch up. Linda's going to join us Friday morning, I believe. So Matthew's going to join us here on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Matthew, you watched Raw last night, as did I. And the news coming out before Raw goes on the air, the WWE champion, Drew McIntyre, is COVID positive. How did you take the news?
My first thought was, concern for him. It sounds like he's doing well. He's asymptomatic, but we're a week removed from Legends Week, and I'm immediately going through the inventory in my head of
who he interacted with.
The older population that was there last week. So just hoping that,
don't want to get the Rona, brother.
Hoping that there's no other cases going to come out of that week or any of the rest of the roster.
Yeah. So hopefully it doesn't happen. You technically broke the news to me first, and then obviously everybody else on the internet, popped it as well. But I found it interesting that this is the first acknowledged case from the WWE in damn near a year. That they actually never acknowledged that anybody else had it or that Corona was a thing until Drew McIntyre had it.
It's probably a good thing that, you don't live specifically in the WWE universe because, you'd be 10 months late to this, and then you would, here's the thing, though. I think your first telltale sign would have been, questioning why WWE is not in front of an audience for the last 10 months. So, I mean, if you did live in that insulated WWE universe, you'd be, you'd have to take at face value that they just decided to go audience less about a year ago as well, too. So, yeah, I mean, there are things that would have aroused your suspicion before now, but first acknowledgement 10 months down the road.
Here's the other bit of irony to go with this as well. The show was supposed to have last night the main event of Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton. And because Drew wasn't going to be there, but he was going to address the crowd over Skype or a recorded message or whatever, they tapped the game, Triple H. Triple H tapped himself, I guess. And he appeared literally in the building and cut that promo at the beginning with Randy Orton instead. Now, me thinking about how WWE books, obviously this whole show was written before. They might rewrite or edit or change things, but they have it set so well that all you have to do is take a piece out and put a piece in. I believe, as I watched the entire show last night, and we'll go through it a little bit here, I believe Triple H was in Drew McIntyre's slot, which is the way it's supposed to be. And if you think about it and go back and watch it again, everything that happened to Triple H or everything Triple H did was stuff that Drew McIntyre was going to do.
No, it makes sense. The opening segment, the closing segment, Triple H as Drew McIntyre would pretty much bookend the show. And, nice way for them to work on the fly. I think that you still had a big time main event. I mean, now Triple H Orton went 5 minutes. I mean, it was really, really quick to get us to where they wanted to get us at the end of the show. But at the end of the day, we probably would have gotten the same result and the same takeaway from that main event as well, too. So, they really kind of picked it up without missing a beat, and it doesn't sound like McIntyre's situation is necessarily affecting the Rumble.
Doesn't sound like it's affecting the Rumble, but what it did affect was all of Raw last night. Let's call Raw the COVID edition.
Yeah.
Now, the reason that match was booked, Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre, they were counter-programming. Do you know what other big event was last night?
That would be a football game of sorts, I believe.
Yes, against two professional teams that get to play in the college ranks because all their players are paid. The Alabama Crimson Tide and the Ohio State Buckeyes. And I'm not going to say the Ohio State because they're both honestly crooked programs. But they were counter-programming. So when they lost Drew McIntyre from their segments, how do we keep the audience? How do we, hey, Hunter, you want to go down there? Sure. Put my bag together, get the jet ready. I mean, that's literally all it is. It's not like he's booking a flight. It's not whatever. It's, get the jet ready. Somebody get a car for me to get over to the airport, and I'll get on the jet, and I'll be down in Tampa in a couple hours. It's not like Triple H doesn't have constant communication with those guys on a daily basis. We've seen his office before. He has direct camera feeds into, the Full Sail. He's got direct camera feeds into the Performance Center. I mean, that's what he does day to day. So he's got that playing in his office 24/7. So I guarantee you, he also has live in his office, the Gorilla, and everything else going on at the Thunderdome. So it made perfect sense. And it's not like Triple H isn't keeping himself in shape. Of course he's keeping himself in shape.
Wait a minute. Did you say he's got a pet gorilla in his office? That's almost on par with my fantasy giraffe.
Yes, that's exactly what I said. Pet gorilla. So it's not like Triple H isn't keeping himself in shape, because he is. Obviously, he had a fresh shave, and I don't mean his face. I mean his head, because that looked like a head that had just been shaved an hour ago. So, I mean, he looked good. He looked good for being Triple H.
Do you think that happened when he got down there, or he moseyed into the old barbershop before he hopped in the jet? No,
they've got people there. No. I mean, they have wardrobe. I mean, they have Hollywood-style wardrobe that work, full-time for the WWE. So when he got down there, hey, I'm going to need a shave. Go ahead and clean my head up. Let's align me up, make sure everything's lined up. No, he got shaved when he got down there. Hit catering, got something to eat, and got cleaned up.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be careful who you trust with the straight razor.
That's right. And he's probably got Brenda or Karen or somebody that works in wardrobe for the WWE that just took care of him. She's the same guy that lines up the beards and makes sure those are silky smooth and, all that other good stuff. They're manscaping. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, and I mean, that, who knows? I mean, with everything that Manscaped's got going on, I mean, he could have done a little Manscaped job on the top of his head, and that might be all it took.
He might have had an afro on his head, and he shaved it off when he got down there. We don't know. So, but let's call this the COVID edition. And the reason I call this the COVID edition of Raw is because every segment that had interactions seemed to have been doubled in time.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about Hardy versus Jackson Riker. Hardy beats Riker right away. Now let's extend this to Jeff Hardy against Elias again. It also happened with Keith Lee and Sheamus taking on The Miz and Morrison. Boom, the match is over. Now it's Keith Lee versus Sheamus. This happened a couple times throughout the night. They took the segment they had and kind of doubled it, which is fine. What it shows is it shows your lack of depth because of what's going on with the COVID, because of what's going on with the situation that we're in. Now more than ever, blah, blah, blah. But it just shows the lack of depth. I think that Drew McIntyre is not the only person that has the Rona. I think there's more, and they just don't acknowledge it.
And it reminds me a lot of what you got last week with 3 non-title matches that resulted in the champion losing. That really showcased the lack of depth there. and then you got it once again tonight. And the other segment that did that was the Matt Riddle MVP Lashley segment, where that extended past the
MVP
past the break. And my goodness, I mean, we've got Raw. You've got 3 hours of television each week, and you are stretching to fill that up with the talent that you've got. It's becoming very noticeable.
Very noticeable. Like I said, it was the two that I was talking about, the one that you brought up. There might be others, but honestly, that's what the edition of Raw was last night. It was the Corona edition. So Jackson Riker blows right through Jeff Hardy, and then Jeff Hardy takes on Elias. Jeff Hardy defeating Elias. Sheamus and Keith Lee versus The Miz and Morrison. Sheamus and Keith Lee having a little friendly back and forth. Sheamus and Keith Lee win after Sheamus smacks Keith Lee in the back, takes the win with a bro kick. And then Sheamus versus Keith Lee with the win. They hug it out at the end. Xavier Woods even took on T-Bar. Now look at the injury that happened to the New Day. Xavier telling us that, look, Kofi's at home injured as well. Who knows what kind of injury that is. But T-Bar defeats Xavier Woods. Your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I mean, they're still trying to push that stable. And it's
Mustafa Ali.
Yeah, I still feel like you're pretty much where you've been with those guys the entire time. I will say this, as far as them to hear about Kofi, I think this is a chance for Xavier Woods to break out, and he has
down.
Yeah, and I mean that is a guy that really he's not had his ample singles run since he's been in WWE, and no. I mean the New Day special.
Dr. Xavier Woods.
Yeah.
I think he has a doctorate, to be honest with you.
I believe you're right, and I mean I remember watching him wrestle a dark match before TNA pay-per-view in like 07, 08 it must have been. It was whenever they came to
Consequences Creed.
Yeah, they came to Greenville, South Carolina, and he was the hometown guy in the dark match before the show, Consequences Creed. And that was an interesting night. It was Angle Christian as the main event, I think. And the show actually opened with an introduction by Hermie Sadler, who was working for TNA at the time.
Boy, yeah.
So, a lot of stuff going on there at that TNA pay-per-view in 2008 that I wish I could remember the name of.
You know what you should do is you should go dig around in the PWR archives. I think there's an interview with Damien and Consequences Creed.
Oh, fantastic.
Way back in the day.
Yeah, you got to go deep for that extensive 20-some-odd year vault.
I mean, it's funny to go look at young Consequences Creed. I think that was around the time that Robbie E. lost to Cal in Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader?
I do remember that. Yeah, that would be about right.
Yeah, MVP versus Riddle. Obviously, Riddle wins by DQ, but Bobby Lashley defeats Riddle. AJ Styles versus Drew Gulak. Styles defeats Gulak, and Gulak apparently not allowed into the Royal Rumble. Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose both announcing their candidacy for the Royal Rumble. They're declaring their entry into the Royal Rumble. I think we've got more declarations coming. But winners Nia Jackson, Shayna Baszler over Brooke and Mandy Rose. That's a feud that's still going on, even though they took the titles away from Jackson Baszler, but they're still doing it.
Yeah, no, and I think it's just it's that lack of depth there, and you've just got limited matchups.
And that's how we got Hardy and Elias again.
Yeah, we've had that for quite a while too, and I don't know where. Here's the thing: you had a pretty decisive victory by Lashley tonight over Riddle, but by judging what we saw with Lashley and MVP after the match, you got to think they're still going that route. I mean, that feels like unfinished business because they absolutely destroyed Matt Riddle tonight. And I do want to pinpoint one thing, and it's easy to kind of gloss over it because it's right in the middle of the card, and they're not beating you over the top of the head with it. But my goodness, Bobby Lashley is being booked stronger than just about anybody in professional wrestling now.
Yeah.
If you watch his matches from week to week, he defeated Jeff Hardy 2 weeks in a row via submission. He defeated, I believe it was Riddle the following week of submission. When he quote unquote lost with the roll up last week, it was after he made Riddle tap out.
Yeah.
And makes Riddle tap out again tonight. So he is being booked very, very decisively. but it's under the radar, and there is an event coming up at the end of this month. Just somebody to keep an eye on.
Absolutely. Finally, the main event was Triple H in his first match since summer of 19, because obviously they didn't do anything throughout the year 2020, but summer of 19, it was probably, Abu Dhabi or, one of those places out there. He didn't look bad. Again, you can cover for Triple H in this particular situation because he made it a street fight. I mean, he's not, pulling off, any kind of submission moves, and it's striker, punch kick, punch kick, punch kick. I absolutely loved the flaming sledgehammer. That was cool.
Yeah,
that was very cool. And again, we think as we watch these, all right, is this stuff oh yeah, that's definitely going to be a pre-tape. I guarantee you they pre-taped this right after they did the opening segment because Hunter had to get back on the plane. I guarantee it.
Little throwback to him and Foley, Hell in a Cell, 2000. Was that a lit sledgehammer or was that just like a 2x4 or something?
It was, I think he lit the 2x4, but it's ironic you say that. And I talked to Linda about this yesterday. Triple H was, they just showed the Conan interview that he had with Triple H, and he was talking about that match. And then he was talking about good old Uncle Al and how Triple H accidentally exposed Uncle Al's grub worm to the entire crowd during a suplex.
Yeah, I mean that's worthwhile. It's kind of a 2-for-1 deal. It's like, if you're gonna get suplex, you might as well expose yourself. That's what I always say. That's my motto.
Of course, it's your motto. Let's talk about, because I wondered when she was coming back. Let's talk about it. Alexa's back, and she's shooting fire. And again, that's nothing but flash paper, I assume, right? But it's very cool. I mean, it's a great visual effect. Damn near blinded Randy Orton.
See, I'm not so convinced that it was actually anything that happened in the arena. That looked post-production special effects to me.
You think?
That looked like something that was pre-taped right there. And I've only watched it once. I can go back and look at it. But just that kind of jerky side camera angle, it did not look like a fireball or anything. Like, it looked like something that was done.
To be honest, it looked like a fire on a string.
Did it?
Because that's how a lot of the pyros work. You should know that from being at WrestleMania 24 when the guy got started on fire. Pyros go on strings.
WrestleMania 24, which you cannot watch on the network currently.
Yeah, and that was the other, I segued that way. WrestleMania 24 was pulled off of the network, Matthew. Did you do any research on that?
As best I can tell, it's some copyright issues with, I believe, Mayweather's entrance music, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Well, it was the fact that you and I were in the same building and never met. So that's.
I was going to say, I just referenced the, exposing yourself on a suplex. Who knows? Maybe they finally saw the fact that, I exposed myself in one of the entrances and like, yep, we gotta cut that out.
It's funny it took him that many years, to finally realize young Matthew had exposed himself at the show.
Yeah, well, I mean, you had to go over it with the fine-tooth comb to pick up.
I hope it wasn't one of those kind of combs where you're supposed to be able to comb the stuff out.
Is that a lice reference?
It was. Yeah. Should have manscaped.
This was what, 1208, 13 years ago? No,
yeah,
almost. Yeah. So, I mean, that's before those days of just being able to listen to your favorite wrestling podcast and save quite a bit of money on grooming supplies.
It's funny that you bring that up because it was the last WrestleMania I went to, but it was probably the most fun I had too, because that was an amazing week. Not just a weekend, it was an amazing week. I started my week. Damien and I both flew down the same day on a Monday. We split off. Damien stayed in Orlando. I hauled ass up to Panama City Beach, go meet my buddy for 3 days, and hang out at his house. So we got there like early Monday morning, the week of WrestleMania. I stayed up there Thursday. All right, dude. And literally, we didn't do anything, right? We're playing video games just like a bunch of dorks that we are.
Yeah.
All right, dude. I got to go. Dude, seriously, it's a 5-hour drive. And if I'm supposed to be at the building by 7, it's 1 o'clock now. I got to go because I forgot to add in the time change.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. It does change.
Because Panama City Beach is central. Orlando's eastern.
Yeah,
I did that twice coming from his house.
Man, that's always been weird. Those states like that where it's 2 different time zones in the state. Yeah. Kansas is like that. I remember driving through Kentucky. Yeah. Remember driving through Kansas and running into that. Yeah, That's always wild. But yeah, that was the year we attended the Hall of Fame as well. And
Yeah.
I don't know if they still do it because I've not purchased Hall of Fame tickets since then. But what I remember being really impressed with was, of course, we got the tickets ahead of time. I imagine through Ticketmaster, but we actually got formal invitations in the mail from the WWE. It was a formal, like a wedding or a graduation invitation, and it had the dress code and everything. Like, I thought that was a really, really cool touch. But yeah, that was an interesting year. I mean,
big weekend. Now, when did you get down there?
Oh man, that's having to go back a ways. Let's see, Mania would have been Sunday. Hall of Fame would have been Saturday at that time. This was pre NXT, so you got none of that. This was the first weekend. That was the first time that TNA was trying to run live.
And that's kind of what I was going to get to. It was their first live broadcast, so I had to haul ass to be to the building by 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock or whatever it was to go to the first ever live TNA Impact.
And we got shut out of that.
That's how late I was.
Yeah, we got shut out of that. We got shut out of some of the TNA action. We eventually got into a taping that would it have been maybe that Saturday before the Hall of Fame?
Okay, so there was a taping that Saturday afternoon, and that actually, who showed up on that one? Because remember they had the dueling entrances on each side of the arena?
Yeah.
And I think it was Billy Gunn showed up.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll have to go back and figure out exactly which one I was at because I know there was some TNA tapings there, and that was because the first live one was
Thursday night.
Was it Rory, the Highlander, that was there?
Yes.
Yeah,
that was how we got fired from WWE.
Yeah,
by being at that show. What happened afterwards, though, me being the video game dork that I am, the people from Acclaim said, "Hey, come join us over at the hotel. We're going to test drive this new TNA Impact game." So that was fantastic. That was fantastic. Now, the sad story about it, this is the part that I still regret to this day. Low-Key is on crutches. Well, Low-Key's standing in front of the cooler that's got the beer in it. Hey, man, can you move? Trying to get a beer. I feel so bad about it still. I made this dude hobble out of the way so I can go get me a Heineken.
Oh my goodness. You and your Heineken.
Yeah. Then I proceeded to go sit on the couch with, I think it was Joe and AJ, and get my ass whipped in the game by them.
I'm glad you finished it in the video game because I didn't know where that conversation was going.
I finished with Joe and AJ. Yeah, that's exactly with the video game. But the reason I'm talking about Impact and the reason I'm bringing it up is tonight on Impact, Kenny Omega, Don Callis will be at the Impact Zone. We saw this. We've been asking. We saw this happen last week, Matthew. We've been waiting for it to happen. The Bueno Hermanos showed up on AEW Dynamite, otherwise known in English as the Good Brothers, and it was the Good Brothers and Kenny Omega and a reformation of the Bullet Club on Impact. What do you expect to see tonight from Impact?
I expect to see them capitalize on all of the good momentum that's going on with this cross promotion. I want to see the Bullet Club. I want to see all the members there. And I think that the Bullet Club unified on Impact Wrestling is
that means we see the Bucks on Impact tonight?
Is must-see TV. Yeah, I think that's the next step.
Okay. Well, I mean, you heard it first. Matthew Damas predicting the future. He thinks that the Young Bucks show up on Impact tonight. I don't know if they do or not, but I know we're making our way to a very big and important pay-per-view for both companies this Saturday. Impact Wrestling is hard to kill. It's happening this Saturday on pay-per-view. And the main event is going to be Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers taking on the Motor City Machine Guns and Rich Swann. It's a big match, and there's a lot riding on this match. So I am excited to see what happens on Impact. Just as excited to see if it carries over to Dynamite, and how do we make it towards Saturday?
Yeah, and I think they have gotten a lot of people reinterested in the product, and there are a lot of eyes, on the product. And here's the thing, even for somebody who hasn't necessarily kept up all that much with Impact in the last year, you feel like it's important. And, things went in a different direction last year, but when you had Tessa Blanchard wrestling in the main event for the title, you felt like it was important. And this feels like an important moment for the industry because, we as fans, we want options and we want companies to thrive. And the more companies that you feel like are mentioned in the same breath, in the same context, the better everybody is. And it's good to have an option and it's good to have competition. And I'm glad to see Impact and AEW are working together to, further that, further move that ball along.
I think so. Perfect. Well, hey, for Matthew Thomas, I'm the man they call Meathead. Thanks for stopping by Tuesday morning here. Tomorrow morning, you get what you ask for. You're getting more Matthew Thomas. And we're going to talk about what happened on Impact, plus preview NXT and AEW. For Matthew, I'm Meathead. Thanks for stopping by. So long, everyone.